Oh, I'm not dead. I'm not dead. I'm not dead. Rest in peace, Lord Beesbury. You gotta protect your neck out there. You gotta be careful. How are we doing? Looks like we got audio was good. We've got lots of people in the chat. Thank you for coming, folks, to the David Lightbringer postgame breakdown. Please click the like button on your way in for me and for Lord Beesbury. Rest in peace. And just to get this out of the way, Hero of the Week, two-part Hero of the Week. One for Lord Beesbury, obviously yelling out treason, but we needed a little more. We need more people yelling out treason. Actually, I guess three Heroes of the Week. A second Hero of the Week, my Saria, below me and to my left here, trying to stamp out the freaky, long-nailed, tooth-sharpened child fighting that apparently goes on in King's Landing. So that was messed up. So hero from Mysaria, probably not dead in the house fire that was intended to kill her. I'm guessing, unless they're changing things quite a bit. But yeah. Plus the White Worm, she's always got a backdoor exit. She's not easy to kill. But we'll get to that. And then third Hero of the Week, of course, Mellies and Rainies, busting up the inauguration, if you will, the coronation. So very cool. Thank you guys for coming. I will be taking super chats fast and furious tonight, and maybe I'll get somebody to join me later in the program. We'll see. But yeah, let's. I'm gonna take your questions as they come. First things first. Let me just get this document open so I can get any that I miss. This is how we do it here. If your super chat goes by and I don't get it, just hang tight. They are added to a document, and I catch them after the fact, scrolling all the way back up. Thank you, Cam Cobain. Least favorite episode so far. Oh, I was a big fan of it, but we can talk about all the different things that were that worked and didn't work. Laurie's love foot. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about that. Woo. Okay. That was weird. Alicent. Oh, Alicent. Of course, Laurie's has a foot fetish. Yeah. Just, wow. There's a couple angles to unpack on that, I guess. Where'd that one go? Papa Bungle says, when the crowd cheered for Aegon, you could see and feel it instantly change him, and not necessarily for the better. Yeah, I agree with that, Papa Bungle. You could see him hold up Blackfire, and he's like, wait, being king's not too bad. I kind of like the smell of this cheering crowd. Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I used to be in a band when I was a younger man, and you work hard in a band. You go to band practice a lot. You play a bunch of lousy shows, but sooner or later you get a good gig, and you're in front of 200 or 300 people, and they're all cheering, and you're playing your song that you've been playing in the garage, and for 15 people. And it is a rush of adrenaline. It is something else when the crowd cheers for you. I can tell you that. It is almost as wonderful as having all of you here watching and chatting away. It is a similar feeling, I gotta say. It's a rush. And so we could see that go into Aegon's head. Obviously, there's thousands of people. He's got Blackfire to wave around. He's got a crown. We could talk about the crown, the aesthetics of the crown. It's a lot of people a little disappointed with it. I missed the rubies. No, we're not. Yeah, we're not. No shaming. No king shaming. That we will joke about it with taste, some kind of taste. I didn't say good taste, but we will joke about it. But we will not shame. No, whatever makes you happy, I guess. So, Alec, get your only fire. Allison's got an only fireflies, I guess, instead of only fans. Only fireflies. Feet for fireflies. I'm not sure. Let's see if you can name Allison's OnlyFans page in the comments or in the chat. Should Rainies have wiped out the greens? Yeah. Yes, she should have. I guess she didn't want to do all the work for Rhaenyra. I have a feeling that was the motivation. Like, man, I'm not gonna make her quit. She's got to earn it.
She's not a kinslayer.
Yeah, I guess that's probably it. Yeah, it would have been kinslaying on a grand scale. And it kind of turns into that whole Tywin Red Wedding argument. Like, oh, well, is it more just to slay 30 people at a wedding than thousands of men on a battlefield? Of course, it should be remembered that is hypocritical, because Tywin also killed thousands of Stark soldiers at the Red Wedding by inviting them under, a big tent pavilion to eat and drink, and then setting it on fire in violation of every law of Westeros. So, yeah, you're right. Thank you, Minty. Yeah, she didn't want to be a kinslayer, but at the same time, she did deliver a pretty stern warning to Team Green, like, this is where it's going if you guys want to press the case. And if they ever had a chance of making her their ally, which they probably didn't, that's gone now. So Connor Cunningham says, could have ended the war before it began. Yeah, you can make that case, but then Rhaenys has to live with that on her. You know, she suffered so much death and tragedy already. And for her to kill so many family members, yeah, you have to, that can't be taught. We can definitely debate it and say what she should have done, but it's not something to be taken lightly. I will just say that. So I don't think you can fault somebody for not being a murderer. Kind of like what Allison said, like, reluctance to murder is not a character flaw. I agree with that. And we'll definitely talk about Allison tonight too. Tracy says, Rhaenys is a badass. Love the end. Also, like that they gave some dimension to Alicent and Aemond. Otto and Laurie still the worst, but fascinating. Great episode. Thanks for all you do. Bird North says, and the first one was from Tracy. I said that. Okay, so yeah, this was. I really liked the changes. At first, I was kind of wrinkling my brow. You know, we were all waiting to see how this misinterpretation of the prophecy would play. And when they started off talking about it so much, I was like, oh, okay, I don't know if I like this. But in the end, I really do like the way that it went. And I will say why. Yeah, the beast beneath the boards turns out to be Melly's, so everyone was wrong. That was fun. And I did suspect that it would pay off sooner than later. Some of the guesses were stuff having to do with next season. Even Blood and Cheese is the beginning of next season. So I like that she said it again, beast beneath the boards. She's like, it was right. So again, think about when it happened. Alicent was about to tell her that Viserys is dead and that they're going to crown Aegon. And then she, again, feels like she's got to warn everybody about the beast beneath the boards. So that was awesome. I love Rhaenys, queen that should have been for my people. So yeah, great conversation between Alicent and Rhaenys. That was wild. Again, another reason why I like some of the changes is because they set up some really interesting conversations. Rhaenys did the analysis on Alicent's psyche for us pretty much in that scene. Captain Gunstar says the destruction of the temple was symbolic. No matter the side, the small folk suffer. Yes, that's a good observation. There was a lot of hashtag Team Small Folk today, wasn't there? They seem to be setting up a Viserys Daemon vibe with Aegon and Aemon. One reluctant to lead, one eager to do so. Yeah, we talked about that last week with Grey Waist Tim and Girl Nettles. And by the way, Grey Waist Tim, if you would like to set up your equipment to maybe roll into this thing in about 20 or 30 minutes, I would love your company tonight, my friend, because I think it's just me otherwise. Oh, what's that? I was muting my cough. I heard something from the peanut gallery. What was that?
I said I might come over later. You never know.
Oh, you never know.
You know how exciting it gets around here.
Okay, well, it does get exciting around here. They seem to be... Okay, I just read that. Sorry. Rhaenys killed hundreds of innocent small folk. Well, technically Mellies, but yeah, they were in the way, weren't they? They clapped for treason. But yeah, to the point of the earlier super chat, it's symbolic. The small folk get trampled under feet when the dragons dance. And that's even the characters we like, that's going to be true of. There's no safe way to ride dragons around. You know, that's kind of the thing. I feel bad for Alicent, Lady Lil says. The Larry scene was like watching the sex scene with Viserys. She was disassociating again and just numb. She gets used by the men around her and endures because she believes it's her duty. Yep. That's exactly what Rhaenys talked about. She only wants a window to the prison, not escape from the prison. That was a really good metaphor that Rhaenys dropped. Storm's End, yeah, I saw it in the previews for next week. We're going there next week. Yes, we are. Ron Robinson. Grey Waist Tim. Oh, where were you? Come back. My Saria must live on to be Varys till Larys his little finger or little foot. Littlefoot, that's good.
The toe.
Little toe. Aegon and Rhaenyra each need their own small council to be nemesis. Nemesis. Nemesis, thank you. Okay, cool. So that's a good call. Like I said, Grey Waste Tim, strap up, get ready to ride. I would love your company if you're around. Oh shit, I was typing the Squisher chat when you said it. Don't like the end, how many innocent people died. No, that's the point. Well, I mean, we're not supposed to like that innocent people died, but we're supposed to notice it. So if you're grieving for those people that got clapped by Melis's tail there, then that's good. Hashtag Team Smallfolk. May they rest in peace, although they did clap for treason. But they were, of course, forced. I'm kidding, of course. They were forced into the dragon pit, and they didn't really have a choice. So, no, they weren't culpable. They were innocent victims, for sure. I think this episode removed most of the nuance to Alicent's character. No, I disagree. I think it did the opposite. Nobody wanted Aegon to be king except her and Otto. She just became an evil mom trope. So I really don't think so. I mean, respectfully, I'll just give my opinion. I'm not presenting my opinion as fact. It's just my take on it. But I think that it's less interesting if Otto and Alicent are kind of on the exact same page. I like that Otto has been laying these plans without telling Alicent, because Alicent has had these blinders on the whole time, where she has not been. Remember, I called her a self-Decepticon last week because she's not being honest about the fact that this is going to lead to war. Everything she's doing, telling Aegon he's going to be king, saying everyone knows you'll be king, Rhaenyra's not going to be queen, that's treason, because it leads to war. And she's not been taken that seriously. And then when Larys kills his family, she's like, oh my God, I can't believe you do that. It's like, well, that's how the game is played. And you saw Otto confront her on that when he's like, oh, you're still playing the game like it's a game. And he's kind of right about that. And so you see what Alicent's philosophy is. She's like, well, it's our job as women to gentle the boys and guide them and stuff. And that's definitely what a lot of women in a system like that would try to do. And I'm not even saying that's an invalid strategy at all. It's just the one that she chose. And so you can see the sort of ins and outs of that. So I like that Otto has laid these plans and Alicent has kind of been deceiving herself about it. But we also see Alicent pivot. We also see her realize, okay, this is what's happening. And she tries to grab the reins and do it her way. Like, no, we're going to give Rhaenyra terms that she can actually accept, instead of terms that are obviously just going to lead to us imprisoning her and in the end executing her. I like that she was sitting there going, actually, Viserys wouldn't have wanted that. I like that. I like that she's not just a transparent monster in the way that Otto is. It gives us some dynamic, and it gives Alicent more conflict, really. I think she was caught in a more conflicted place, and she was very interesting to watch this episode. That foot scene, oh my God, dude. It was the slow creep. Minty was like, wait, does he have a foot fetish? And I was like, wait, is she taking off her stockings like to get information? Holy shit, dude. That was wild. That was wild. Wow. Okay. So, yeah. Melis is gorgeous. We could definitely take a minute to appreciate Melis. Let me see here. If I click on these, yes, it will. I feel bad for Alicent. Okay, I read that one. I really wish someone had asked Alicent some better follow-up questions about what Viserys said. I don't think anybody asked her because no one believed her. And I like the way that they used that. It was like, I had a feeling that might go this way, because it's not credible. Oh, he changed his mind after 20 years on his deathbed, just like Beesbury said. Like, that's not credible. And Otto knows it's not credible. So when Otto says it, it's entirely different. When Otto says it, he's standing up as the emperor with no clothes and commanding everyone to bow down and swear that he has clothes. And everyone's like, yep, that's cool. That sounds fine. So it's totally different with Alicent. Like she's wrestling with this thing like, oh no, we've got a reason to do this, but we got to do it nicely. And everyone else is like, yeah, you're full of it. We're just doing this because we want to. So I enjoyed that dynamic. Emmanuel says, I love that Aegon's drive is approval from Viserys and the people. It explains why he chooses to stay in power as opposed to stepping aside for Aemond. Yeah, I actually said that when I was watching it. I was like, so he's holding up the sword, right? And the crowd's cheering. And it's like, wait, I like being king. Maybe now my parents will love me. It's like, you could definitely see that clicking in. Like, he wants approval. He's been starved for approval. And now the entire crowd is giving him approval. So not only is his mom and Otto proud of him, but he could imagine Viserys being proud of him if he wants to, or just soak up everything from the crowd. So a big change in Aegon's personality. It'll be interesting to watch the evolution of his character. I feel so bad for Helena. She really doesn't like to be touched. Yeah, we saw that again. And flinched when her mom tries to touch her. My neurodivergent self understands. Yeah, I think at this point we can definitely say that we really don't even need the producers to tell us that she's being coded as neurodivergent. I mean, it's pretty obvious to anyone who knows people that are on the autism spectrum or deal with hypersensitivity, ADHD. There's a variety of stuff that have traits that are similar to Helena. So definitely, I think it's pretty clear, like with the whole touch thing. And you saw also, like, the second that Otto spoke to her in a harsh way, she immediately looked down and sort of clammed up. So yeah, I think that there is both of those going on. She's obviously a prophet and a dreamer, quote unquote, which just means that she receives whisperings of the future. We don't know if they're visions or things that she hears or dreams. We don't know, but she obviously is getting visions of the future, or glimpses of the future, something like that. And of course, it's not the Targaryen prophetic gift is not necessarily limited to just dreams either. They have waking dreams and all kinds of things. So let's see here. But yeah, Helena was pretty awesome. As soon as Helena came on screen, I dropped whatever was in my hand. I just kind of froze. It was like, actual dialogue with Helena. And of course, she was weaving a spider. So we know now that they have. So yeah, the beast beneath the boards was definitely Melis. That's clear. And yeah, let me message Grey Waste Tim and give him the link.
He said he's ready when you are, but there's like 400 super chats. So
Okay, cool, yeah. All right, yeah, no, I'll keep going, but I just want to send him the link before I forget. He can help me get through the super chats. Let's see here. Sorry, guest mode. There we go. Interview on. Grab this link. So yeah, Beast Beneath the Boards was Melis. And let's see here. Sorry, I can't do two things at once. Let me just message him this real quick, and then I'll be back with you guys. Here we go. Easily done. So I'm going to pull up these super chats. Go ahead and dial in, Tim, and I'll pull you in just a second. Michaela says, what of Eamon and Helena's reaction to the coronation? I need to study it. I saw Helena sort of acting uncomfortable, probably because she sensed the beast beneath the boards, getting ready to surface. And Eamon, obviously, we can probably have a whole conversation about that. We got into this idea that Eamon does see himself as a better candidate to be king, which we wondered about because it's pretty obvious. But now that Aegon has cast aside his reluctance, I'm guessing that Eamon will turn into his right-hand man, pretty much. Matthew says, what an amazing episode. Thank you for all you do, David and Minty. Yeah, I really love this episode. I like it when they slow down the pace, and most of the future episodes will be at this pace as well. There's Mr. Tim. I'll go ahead and just add you on in here. Hello, Mr. Tim. Thanks for joining in on short notice, buddy. Oh, you got a haircut.
Oh yeah. Yesterday on the spoiler stream, I was wearing the hat. So yeah, I got haircut, beard trim since the last time we were on.
Man, that is looking spiffy, mister. So thanks for hopping in here. And the
Oh,
super
thanks for
chat.
having me.
Yeah, well, the super chats are coming fast and furious, and I feel like we can get two voices in on this. I had one guest last week, and that was like just under my overwhelming threshold. So you see, like I had you and Nettles on yesterday, and we went for 3 hours without taking many super chats at all. So with three people, it really is like there's a lot to get out. But you and I are tight now. I don't have to treat you like a new guest. You know, we know the cut of your jib and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you can help me dive into these. And we've got
of course.
lots of good questions today. Let's see. Ron Robinson, thank you for the sticker. As well as Sam, super chat it just says Mellies. That's valid. Would Rhaenyra find out about the coup anyway? Well, no, she's going to find out. It's just a matter of they needed to figure out what they were doing so they could control the message and have that coronation, essentially, and stage it the way they want. George says, just second, I thought Allison was going to... Warging? What?
Walk into the dragon.
I'm confused.
I thought she
Alicent
was
Warg?
George.
You thought what now?
Looked like she was trying to walk Millie's.
Who?
Something. Allison.
Oh, she was just closing her eyes and getting ready to be burnt. That's all. You guys need to settle down.
I know.
That's a life flashing before your eyes look right there.
Yeah, that's what that was. Nobody can warg anyone in this show. Let me just say that. There's no warging in this show at all. There's no green seers. There's no warging. Warging is wolves, by the way, so it's skin changing. Nobody's ever skin changed rats that we've heard of.
Are you gatekeeping warging?
Yes, I'm
Ellen
gatekeeping.
now?
Yes, I'm a gatekeeper. That's right. I'm just ranting a little bit. You could believe whatever you want, obviously, but we have not seen it, so I'll just say that. Can you imagine, Evangelium says, can you imagine how the meeting between Rhaenyra and Rhaenys will be when she tells the news of what Alicent has done? Yes, we won't have to imagine long because next week will be all on Dragonstone, just as this week was on all in King's Landing. But yeah, it's, you know, they've played Rhaenys in such an interesting way. She sticks down the middle. She's not been just automatically Team Rhaenyra at all, and so it'll be interesting to see her presence in the War Council next week. What do you think, Tim?
Oh yeah. I like. I gotta gather my thoughts here for a second. Sorry, because this was totally unexpected for me to come on. We kind of just jumped in on this. Yeah,
Give her the program. Give her the program. I mean, no, thank you.
No, obviously I was wrong about a couple things. Can't say the one thing I was wrong about because that's from spoiler stream. So only check that out if you've read the book or if you don't mind spoilers. The stream we did yesterday, me, you, and Nettles. Was really surprised to see that it was Sir Eric is actually the first to defect and is going to be the first one to make it to Dragonstone. I thought that was going to go to Harold Westerling. I mean, I still think he's going to, but yeah, I just found it interesting that it was the twins and it came about of him just seeing Aegon and kind of just being like out in King's Landing and sort of seeing Aegon for what he is. And it's just like, oh shit, this guy can't be king. Like, look at him.
That was interesting. I really did enjoy that conversation between the two brothers. That was pretty dope. So I guess Harold hasn't fully defected. He just sort of left and said, I'm out on this. But I kind of assumed he was going over to Rhaenyra at that point. But I guess maybe I'm making an assumption.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, they're in total coup mode. And we saw what happened to Lord Caswell. When Eric is escorting Rhaenys out, Lord Caswell is just hanging there. So I think Harold Westerling has the good sense to know, like, if he's going to defect, now's not the time. He's got to wait for an opening because if anyone's giving, like, we don't even know what happened to the other two, the Lady of House Fell and whoever that other lord is that refused to kneel. Like, if they're in black cells or if they're
Black
hanging
cells, I would guess.
too.
Yeah, because Caswell was hanged for trying to escape. So the other ones were probably in the cells. But Alicent said that she wanted Kristen named Lord Commander. So I took that to mean that they were counting Westerling out of the picture already. So
Yeah, I think it's like he's pulling a Barristan right now.
yeah, that's how I saw it too. Yeah. Kristen clearly needs some anger management classes, says Talk Studios. Yeah. So I really like the changes. There's a lot of book to show changes this week, small ones, but still substantive ones. In the books, either Kristen kills him with a sword or throws him out the window, I think. They're not sure, but both of those rumors are spread. Isn't that how it is, Tim?
Yeah, some say that like he just sort of slit his throat right then and there. It kind of seems like an accident in that he forces him down in the seat, but he forces him down so forcefully that his head just like hits that rock, and it's like now we know like wow, those little stones that they have for these meetings are quite durable.
Yes, well, they are stones.
Like his eye, like when we see him laying there, it looks like it went straight through his eye socket, like pierced right into his skull.
It was pretty gory, and also like it was surprising. And I think they're doing a good job of making this show both for the book readers and the non-book readers. Like they're doing little things to surprise us book readers, like the Mellies thing, like the way that Beesbury was murdered so suddenly. Because we see Beesbury stand up, we know he's going to get killed by Kristen Cole, but we don't know. We're like expecting him to maybe pull his sword out or carry him over to the window, and instead he just shoves him down, and it sort of happens kind of accidentally, kind of not,
Yeah.
And I like that. I like the way they played it. It was shocking,
Yeah, it's the same with when the twins are going out to look for Aegon and they go to those child fighting pits. Like that's part of Mushroom's tale of where Aegon was the day the morning of after Viserys died. So they go with that part, but then they don't go with the rest of the story, which I'm very happy that they didn't go with the rest of the story that Mushroom says, because that's just way too far. But I think that's just Mushroom being crass and crude Mushroom.
Yeah, I thought that was well played. I like that Mysaria basically kidnapped him. As soon as she heard that Viserys had died, she's like, I know what I should do. I should kidnap Aegon and sell him back to the Red Keep for the highest bidder. That was great. I love that.
And Aemond's part too, when he says like, well, he could be off with mercenaries, he could be on a ship bound for Yi Ti. It's like, wow, really dropping just like what Aegon could be up to, and just it really makes us like wonder like, what is Aegon getting up to these nights that he sneaks out? If he has connections that he could get as far away as Yi Ti if he really wanted to.
No, I like that. In the book, it's sort of said that Aegon is reluctant to usurp his sister. And it's kind of a throwaway line that almost sounds like it's meant by the Maesters just to make Aegon sound better. But I like what they've done. They've made it a whole personality, this reluctance to be. So instead of just being a little reluctant, he's literally trying to flee. He's trying to drink. So now we realize that part of his drinking, not only to escape in an escapist way, but literally to be like, I'm not worthy. I don't want this. Look at me, I'm an alcoholic, I can't do this. So that was a really interesting twist that they put on his drinking and sort of self-destructive habits. So I really, again, I think the changes that they made in this episode are really interesting, and they've made the character pop a lot more.
And what's great too is when Aegon comes around, when he sees the crowd cheering and gets that, we see that look like, oh yeah, I could get used to this. What happens to Aegon is exactly what Otto said would happen with Daemon if Daemon ever got the crown. When Otto dropped that line, I think it was like in episode 1, like, nobody has made a man who doesn't love the idea of absolute power. That's what you just said to Daemon is exactly what you're seeing happen to your own grandson, and it's happening right before your eyes. But of course, Otto's not going to say that about his own grandson the way he would Daemon.
So, Patrick says, does Westeros not have a tradition of abdication? Later, it's after this in time, but Prince Duncan, known as the Prince of Dragonflies, is probably the person you're thinking of, Patrick Long. And he does give up his status as heir before he becomes king, before his father dies, so that he can marry for love, which I said that book Rhaenyra should have done. she had kind of that choice too. Less so on the show, but yes, that happens later in time. But yeah, Aegon couldn't abdicate because the Hightowers needed it to be the firstborn son, and they needed the brand of Aegon. They needed all of that. They couldn't pull this coup and say, oh yeah, but our secondborn son wants it more, so we're putting him on the throne instead of Rhaenyra. That wouldn't have worked. So this was not a situation that Aegon could abdicate from. And so, yeah, we don't need to feel sorry for him because he's a terrible person, but at least we can understand the pressure cooker that has created this personality. And now we have this twist of like, he's being fed the adulation and the unlimited power, like you said, Tim. So hopefully, that won't, corrupt him at all or reveal, personality flaws that have been not very well hit. Oh shit, this isn't going to go well. Okay. So
I hope this doesn't awaken anything in me.
And you can just think, I mean, like, who's fit to be king? Would you want Larys to be king? Would you want, there's not many people. Aemond, would you want Aemond or Daemon to be king? Probably not. Rhaenys is definitely somebody that we could say would probably be a good queen. She's pretty tough too, so you wouldn't want to be on her bad side. Of course, that is part of holding the throne. You got to be kind of a badass. So, yeah, there's most of these people are abusing their power. I guess I'll just say that so I don't get on a whole preachy tangent about abusing authority and whatnot. We've heard that before. I guess we know where Biter came from now. Oh, Evan Luke.
Oh, yeah.
Damn, son. Give that man a sticker or something. That's brilliant, Evan. That's I wonder if that's what they were thinking about, because we know, well, okay, hold on. Now, Biter came from Essos, didn't he? Didn't Rorge?
No, Rorge was like his caretaker in the fighting pits down in Flea Bottom. So he might be from Essos, but when he came into contact with Rorge, and whenever Rorge became like coupled up with him, he was already in King's Landing.
Okay, well that's interesting. I wonder if that's an intended connection, because it did seem a little random. I was like, what the fuck is going on here at Flea Bottom?
Otto Hightower never looked into it like he said he was gonna.
Well, instead he had Mysaria exit. Well, I guess it wasn't him. It was Alicent and Larys that did it. But like I said, I suspect Mysaria is probably not dead. In the books, she has a lot to do still. So, Gerald Garcia, and I know there's a bunch of super chats that I got to catch up on. But just real quick, I see this one. Rhaenys escape looked cool, but why wouldn't she kill Aegon? That part made no sense. Well, we addressed it at the beginning of the stream. She was hesitant to become a kinslayer. Those were all her family members. So even though she can see it's about to be a war, she's had so much tragedy in her life. You could sort of understand she wasn't ready to slaughter a bunch of her relatives. I think that's the conclusion. Would you agree with that, Tim?
Yeah, like, I watched after the episode 2, and Ryan Condal even said, like, he knew he goes into this knowing that a lot of people probably are going to say, like, oh, Rhaenys should have just burned them all right then and there, and that would have ended the war. And it's like, yeah, but that also would have ended the show. But he put it up as without that, there's no show. But he also put it up as Rhaenys didn't want to, as a mother to mother, didn't want to do that to Alicent, especially after Alicent had basically ensured Rhaenys' survival, because if Otto Hightower had his way, Rhaenys probably would have been hanging up there with Lord Caswell.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. The thing that seemed like it was that line earlier from Alicent where it's like, reluctance to murder is not a weakness. I think we were supposed to think about that line when Rhaenys just chose not to murder a bunch of people. Although obviously the dragon took out more than a few small folk. May they rest in peace. That is true. Let's see. Let's see here. And yes, and people are pointing out to, like, oh, well, what about, the people that died under her feet? The thing is that people treat people that we know versus people that we don't know differently. So Rhaenys is thinking more about Alicent and the people on the stage there, I think, than the people beneath her feet. But I don't know. like I said, there's no safe way to do this Dragon Lord shit. People always die when the dragon stands. So let's see here. Great stuff tonight. Eamonn's eye incoming next episode. Yes, I did see the eye patch come off. Did they show us the stone or not, Minty? No. Okay, so there's still this. Okay, it's a surprise. So it's like the beginning of him taking the eye patch off. But we don't see what's underneath. Okay, cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it's like just a quick glimpse of the sapphire in his eye, but cut away so quick that you can't exactly comprehend what was there. You just know that something is in his eye socket.
Yeah, Carl Karstnark says, none of you would murder your entire family either, for fuck's sake. That's fair. That's fair. Weak. Carl, you're weak. You don't have what it takes.
No, the people in chat are weak.
Oh.
Not being able to do it.
Well, like I said, it's mostly a good thing. So, because at this point, it's possible that the war can still be avoided. It's not certain they're going to go to war. She's going to go back to Dragonstone, and they're going to talk about it. But they want to negotiate from a position of power at the very least. So let's see here. Silver Scale. Rhaenys called Alicent out for her internalized misogyny. Love to see it. Yeah, I'll cover that in the breakdown video. But Rhaenys pretty much did my work for me. I was saying she completely broke down Alicent. I mean, that window to a prison could be the title of a video that's analyzing Alicent. That was brilliant. What did you think of that conversation, Tim?
Oh, yeah, it was a great line because it is showing like when she says like, haven't you ever thought of yourself on the Iron Throne? And it's like, yeah, like it, because when we first saw that before the show started, when we were getting like little snippets, and that was one of the lines that they dropped way in the beginning, so we never knew what the full context of what it was. And some people were thinking like maybe Rhaenys is egging her on, but now to see it in this episode and get the context behind it, and it's like, yeah, maybe you can't be the queen fully in name like Rhaenys should have been, or like Rhaenyra intends to be, but you can definitely be pulling the reins, even though it does mean having to take more control of your son in order to do it. Like, and it's back to when we think of the main series and Varys and his idea of where does true power lie? It's a ploy. It's a shadow on the wall. So many kings have really been puppets to people in the back, and sometimes the person in the back is their mother. Like that is a recurring theme throughout history. Mute it.
You could feel that tension when Alicent and Otto were looking at Aegon. Like, he's lifting his arms, and I was doing my little Mystery Science Theater 3000 thing where I was talking for Aegon. It's like, I'm doing it. And then they show Alicent's face, and it's like, he's doing it. And it's like, wait, oh, he likes it.
He's doing it.
Yeah, he's doing it. Oh, God. Can we control him? You can feel that tension right on the stage there. It's like, he needs to be a king. He can't be a total puppet, but that means he's not a total puppet, and you don't have total control. So, yeah, it's a dangerous game being a puppet master of a king.
Yeah, and that's up until he has that 180, that's kind of what they were expecting. They wanted him to be a puppet. I mean, he was kind of a shitty puppet, but now it's like, oh man, this puppet's going to start ripping its strings off. It's like, I don't want to go all Age of Ultron on it, but that's kind of like, for the Marvel fans, will understand the whole there are no strings on me. It's the moment you lose control of your puppet, and we kind of see that with Alicent and Otto realizing like, shit, I think we might have just created a monster here.
Yep. Yeah, we could all see it coming. A loose thought that I had going back to the Alicent and Rhaenys conversation, which, like I said, I'll probably get more into that in my breakdown video, my produced one that'll come out during the week. But we've been talking a lot, Tim, about the characters' philosophies, especially Alicent and Rhaenyra, and the different ways they're dealing with this male-dominated society. We've talked about Alicent as a rule follower, and that's why Rhaenyra's disobedience sort of threatens her on such an existential level. But what was interesting is that we've been interpreting that from these little things that she says and does. And a lot of it we've had to work to understand and see the hypocrisy. She says one thing, but she's kind of doing something that belies that. Well, tonight, when Rhaenys and Alicent were talking, it's like all of a sudden that personal philosophy was laid bare. And she's almost basically stating it. And they're both stating their philosophies about how women should try to deal with men in this world and power and all that. And I just thought it was so interesting to see all of that stuff that we've been talking about all of a sudden get into the mouths of the characters as they're trading sort of philosophical riposts on what the best way is. Like, it's really personal. You know, Rhaenys talking to Alicent, have you ever thought about this? And Alicent's offer to Rhaenys saying you should have been the queen and all this. Yeah, so that was fascinating. I want to go over it line by line.
Yeah, and it's great to see Alicent take that to heart and then reclaim agency, because later when she confronts her father and then they have their whole chase for Aegon because each of them wants to impart their own ideas onto Aegon of how they should proceed further. Otto wanting to get it in his head, no, you have to follow my plan. We need to kill Rhaenyra and her family. And Alicent wanted to impart hers, like, no, we don't hurt your sister. Give her an ultimatum. Give her something that's going to at least allow her to have some grace and dignity about this. And, and don't murder your sister and your nephews, basically. Which is, it's not a crazy thing to ask for. It's like definitely the most reasonable one. But then it's going to come down to this idea of who has it right. And it depends, and that becomes a whole moral question of, are you the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few type thing that Otto's trying to justify, or is it, do you show mercy to your enemies even in the face of war? It really is like a big moral question.
And I feel like Alicent did maybe take some of Rhaenys' talk and consider it. Like, she got pretty aggressive with Otto. Like, she flat out had her own people go and try to find Aegon so that she could put Otto in his place and be like, no, we're doing this my way. So even though we've said that she's deceived herself about the violence that this is going to lead to, we do have to give her credit for trying to grab a lot of power behind the scenes. That's the rules. Women can't have power where everyone can see. But behind the scenes, she's gotten pretty aggressive, and she really is trying to do this being the coup, in a way that is, in her mind, less likely to lead to war with Rhaenyra. So I like that she didn't just cave in and be like, oh, I was wrong, this is going to lead to war, and then just flop over to being bloodthirsty. So she is trying to take some agency. Because remember, my concern with Alicent's potential whitewashing with her motives via the misunderstanding of Viserys' final words would take away her agency. But she's taken agency in her own way by sort of battling her father on how they're going to do it. And I found that to be very interesting.
Yeah, and it's two losses on Otto's part too, because not only is it Kristen Cole and Aemond who are going to drag Aegon back kicking and screaming, but because Otto sent the Cargyle twins, he loses one of the twins, because again, Sir Eric is going to be the first of the Kingsguard to defect to Rhaenyra's side. So he sends out his own people, and he doesn't even get, not only does he not get Aegon, he doesn't even get all of his people back.
Well said. And let's see here. Next question, and there's still lots of super chats here. Going as fast as I can. Hot Channel, while still delivering the quality answers that you expect, of course. Hot Channels, is Rhaenys a hero? ? She killed the small folk, but not the usurpers. Lame. Well, we've already talked about the idea of her not wanting to be a kinslayer. But, and we also discussed the fact that, yeah, in order to make her escape, she trampled a bunch of people with her dragon. So it's not clean. We can cheer for Rhaenys. There is a certain glory to the moment, but there's also that tragedy. That's how George depicts war. He gives you the glory of war, but shows you the nasty underbelly too. It's all there at the same time. And that's the complex writing. So I'm glad that Ryan has picked up on that. Because remember, when Game of Thrones, and this is something good to think about, Tim, when Game of Thrones made up their own scenes, they mostly did not do well. We got the Craster's Keep madness. We got the White Hunt. All kinds of stuff like that. The one thing that the Game of Thrones did differently that they made up that I liked was Dany burning the calls in that hut. Because I felt like that was something that could happen in A Song of Ice and Fire. The tone felt right. It's like Dany's is wrathful and violent, but in a way that's justified. That makes sense. This was a really good example of like this whole thing with Meleys was not in the books at all. They completely invented this. But it felt like something that would happen in A Song of Ice and Fire. All the people in the dragon pit. And then Rhaenys, the escaped prisoner, riding her dragon right up through the floor, trampling people, staring down the high towers with her dragon. Like, wow. I just thought that was really cool for inventing something that was not in Fire and Blood at all. What did you think of that scene? And I'm going to go get Cleo while you answer.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I thought it was a great scene too. But when it comes to the dragon popping up, and I understand people's dislike that, well, okay, well, small folk get stomped under feet. It's like, yeah, but that's also one of the running themes throughout Fire and Blood and George's take on war is that in war, from medieval war to modern day to ancient warfare, civilian casualties are always a thing. Like, this isn't an anime. These aren't going to be one-on-one fights. Those aren't empty buildings in the background. People die all the time. We remember the names of the lords and the knights because they're the ones that in the history books, but the countless thousands of nameless citizens that go down in these wars, they're the ones that we should really be looking at, and they're the ones that don't go remembered. And that, again, is the running theme of this. Like, it's the small folk who always suffer the most when the high lords play their games. But I do see, like, another big motive, though, this is that since this is Aegon's coronation, he has just been named Lord of the Seven Kingdoms and Protector of the Realm. And the very first thing that happens is an incident in which he could not protect the realm. And I think that's the other thing is, like, that's going to be something that people remember. The very first act after his king is something bad happens and he couldn't stop it. And I've talked many times on these streams we've done that perception and optics in these situations are very key to what happens. Like with Dany's possible burning of King's Landing, like, I don't think in the books, I don't think it's going to be anything like season 8, but I do see her in the books maybe hitting a cache of wildfire that her dad had stashed.
Right.
And that being the thing that makes people look at Dany as a mad queen. It's not her fault. She had no idea about it, but it's going to be the perception of what people see.
Yeah, and the people are superstitious. We've seen that in Westeros. They're superstitious about bastards and omens and comets and all kinds of things. Although you should pay attention to the comets. Those can actually have an impact sometimes. Okay, so this was a bad omen. I mean, Otto stands up and I've got this. What is this? Cleo, did you do this?
Her poop.
I'm just kidding. Was it Cleo? They tried, so Otto stands up and tries to sell everybody on some bullshit. Oh, Viserys, he changed his will at the last second, and it's Aegon that's the king. And you can see everyone kind of going, okay, all right. There was a lot of that. The crowd acting was actually really good. You could see the...
Yeah. Because a lot of people were just drug into this. They're like, all right, well, I was just on my way home. Like, can I go now? Like, that seems to be the general feeling about this. It's like, yeah, that's cool, I guess.
And then a giant symbol of the Targaryens and their past, Rhaenys and Meleys, rising out of the floor to just throw the entire thing into chaos. Like, that story is going to spread all through King's Landing. That will definitely have a lot of people believing that the High Towers have been judged by the gods and that they've angered the dragon gods of old Valyria or fucking whatever. So, like, this is definitely I mean, they tried to do a lot of stagecraft here, and it was going really well until then. So, yeah, it all blew up in their face, didn't it? And Rhaenys' armor was amazing. Is the armor stashed down in the dragon pit, or did she have like some armor in a satchel that I missed?
She had it on.
She had it on under her cloak. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, right on. Well,
She flew there.
right, she flew there in the first place, so she would have had it in her room probably.
Yeah, like
I'll have to rewatch.
It's probably something that we're supposed to accept happened off screen, that when Sir Eric comes to get her, he probably had her change into some armor, because I mean,
yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah,
idiot. Like, all right, I'm taking a princess out in the middle of King's Landing. Like, shit can easily happen. She should be wearing some armor.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah. Matthew Buffington, I hate as a writer that blood and cheese. No, that's not supposed to happen yet, Matthew. That would be at the beginning of next season, if anything. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we don't know how they're going to do. I mean, they'll do their own version of it, but that time has not come yet. So, and this, of course, no spoiler stream, but if you know the order of events, there's several things that need to happen before we get to that. So some of those things will happen next week. George says 10 out of 10. Just for a second, I thought, I read that one. Let's see. Jam X says, who cares about what Viserys wants? Rhaenys should have killed them all. She had the chance to end the war and save tens of thousands, and she didn't. Well, but we're saying that knowing what happens in the future. Rhaenys doesn't know that yet.
Yeah.
She might imagine that she can go to Dragonstone, and that then her and Rhaenyra and their side can negotiate, which they do try to negotiate. It just, it does eventually lead into war anyway.
Hindsight's always 20/20, so who knows? There could be a moment in a later episode in the upcoming seasons where maybe Rhaenys is able to see Alicent again and will look at her and say, I should have burned you right then and there.
Yeah.
Like that is always something they can add later on.
Yeah. And also, like, I just think, like it said, it's, reluctance to murder people, even if it's strategic, is not necessarily weakness. It just shows that Rhaenys isn't a total monster. She rides a monster that did tail whip like 200 people. But there's a line somewhere, I guess, So Mystery Knight likes Aegon's crown. I did like how it looked very barbaric. I just missed the big fat rubies, I guess. What did you think, Tim?
Yeah, like, because I was misremembering it, because I for the while I thought that they had crowned Aegon with his father's crown. I believe in the books I thought it was his father's crown, and then Rhaenyra gets Jaehaerys's. But I guess it makes more sense that no, they really with the way they're going about this show with Aegon the Conqueror's prophecy, it makes more sense that they would want to use the Conqueror's crown. Aegon II used the crown of his namesake, which also then leaves the possibility of Rhaenyra getting Viserys's crown, because the last time we see Viserys's crown is after the Silent Sisters are wrapping up his body, then they lay the crown on top of it. If Harold Westerling is going to make his way to Dragonstone, then it's very plausible that he's going to grab Viserys's crown and present it to her, or maybe even Sir Eric grabbed it while he was on the way out with Rhaenys, and one of them has it.
Yeah, one of those two. I like the little moment of Alicent putting the crown on Viserys's wrapped up corpse there. That was a nice moment for me. I'm sure the Alicent haters will be mad about it because she's supposed to be a monster. But I thought it was good. And let's see here. There was one. Not that Karen says, do we think Alicent will start paying attention to Helena now, specifically her prophecies? Because she said that beast beneath the boards thing very loud and directly to Alicent right at that moment. Alicent might remember that after this incident with Meleys. So yes, I do hope that people start listening to Helena, obviously. And if you think about it, that has to happen for this to be an effective plot device, right? Like, Helena's going to be well, let's see. I'm trying to word this without spoilers. They've given her this gift of prophecy. And so to use it as a plot device, eventually they will need people to listen to it and take actions because of it, and not just have it be foreshadowing for the reader. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, just in how I said each side needs to have their own small council. It'd be great if they, because there's a couple different ways they could go with this. If they have like Helena be like, oh well, she's like our own personal oracle, but then that might fly in the face of the Maesters again. Like Orwell might be, you got someone like Orwell who's now in this Green Council who might be arguing from a Maesterly standpoint of like, are we really going to put faith in prophecy and superstition and yada, yada, yada? And then also, again, Hightowers and the faith. We've already seen, if you watch with closed captioning on, it says that the one anointing Aegon is Septon Eustace. So we already got like this whole, then the faith will make their argument of like, oh, well, that's they could be saying like what Helena's doing is witchcraft, sorcery, things of all that, because it's one of the funny things that we continue seeing throughout this series is that even though the faith of the Seven is the most popular and the biggest religion, it's the one that has like the least miracles and the least signs and portents from its gods, like old
Nice,
gods, Valyrian.
safe religion, incense,
Yeah.
candles, no magic, yeah.
But it's like the old gods or R'hllor or even Valyrian dragon gods, which give you a sense of like, hey, they might actually be here influencing like that slight hand turning the world. Like, no, the faith of the Seven seems to be more hands off if there's any kind of influence that the Seven actually have.
Somebody's saying that Helena just needs to wash all of her prophecies by saying the mother told her XYZ.
Oh yeah.
But that's a good idea. I like that. That's another a way that it could be an interesting plot device, is to see eventually it create controversy with the faith. But like, there's so much with the Greens that's controversial, from Alicent and Laurie's bad foot. I think that's what we should call him. He's on the bad foot. And, it's instead of like the bad pussy, he likes the bad foot.
I mean,
sorry. That's the truth.
I know we shouldn't kink shame, and I feel like they were going that for weird for the sake of being weird, but all right. I really didn't, when I saw it happening, I didn't really know quite what to make of it in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're intending to say that people who have foot fetishes are mass murdering psychopaths.
No.
But it's interesting. I mean, people do have kinks, so you can't say that Laurie's can't have a kink, right? Other people obviously have kinks. Aegon is the window wanker. Can I say your thing about Rhaenyra and cream pies, or is that inappropriate, Minty?
Or my thing. Or my thing
Canceled.
from
The stream
Ye-
is canceled.
It's inappropriate
Hey.
for you.
Oh, it's inappropriate.
Yes.
Okay, so pretend I didn't say that then.
Well, yesterday I did the whole Tim the Baker thing in Aegon with the nut loaves.
Yes, no, that was commented on. It was commented on in the comments. But yeah, no, the point is, people were saying Harwin's pullout game is weak. Shout out Cardi B. And Minty was like, no, that's Rhaenyra's fault. She's not letting him escape. So,
She's leg locking him in.
and I'm sorry for everyone that's watching this with their kids. Yeah, I apologize. That's okay. Every other Ice and Fire stream that I watch is more bawdy than me, so I think we're okay. You watch like Teflon or something, and Gray Area, like they're bringing the little more realness. So
Cream file.
Downtown Cloudy Brown. Oh, Cloudy, I love you.
was that Downtown Clowny? It was. Oh, brought it to a screeching halt. You have.
Yeah, shame on all of us.
Thighs
Carl,
of dragon
shame on
steel.
all of us.
Rhaenyra's got him. Yeah, you can't. There's no escape. Oh boy, you got to have some strong thighs to ride a dragon. Come on.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Gotta have the kung fu grip. Ray got to kung fu grip. Carl Karsnark says, "You'll reward me when the time is right." The foot.
They're all doing kegels.
Well, guys, we'll work on the memes and jokes during the week. This might be a good point, good time to tell people in case you didn't hear. I have created a Discord, a safe place on the internet, free from filth, to discuss the show like adults, like mature adults, or something. So, I did make a Discord. It is for patrons and sub-squishers. So it's basically, this is going to be a perk for all the people that give me money. A lot of people give me money to make videos, and I give them very little, to be honest. Basically nothing. I'm late to give out nicknames, and I do not do exclusive free content for my patrons. I do not do exclusive or early content for my sub-squishers. You guys just give me money and I say thank you and just keep making videos. And that's a good arrangement for me. But I've been trying to think of a way to give you guys something extra. And then here I am on Twitter, wasting time putting all of my extra observations and analysis on Twitter, where it's taken out of perspective and I argue and the worst personality traits come out, and like, it was a bad thing. So what I've done is I've gotten off Twitter. I mean, not completely. I'll still announce like the shows and stuff. But we've created this Discord as a place for all of us myth heads and myth head adjacent folks to talk about the show, Song of Ice and Fire. There's a meme section. So there's more serious talk, less serious talk. It's all there. It's on the Discord. And to be a part of it, basically you got to give me $5 a month. That's again, so that I can be giving something to the people that are giving me money, but it's also to gatekeep. It's to keep the community controlled, so any Yahoo can't just roll in and start spreading the bad takes or whatever. So I apologize if that feels exclusive to anyone. If anyone is like low on money and you've been a long time fan and you want to message me or something, I'll probably give you a link too. It's not meant to be a big deal. If you sign up for like a month of being a squisher and then stop subscribing, I'm not going to kick you out of the Discord. It's fine. So you can think about it that way. Give me $5 one time. You can get in. And if you can't afford to keep it going, that's fine. I don't like to make my content exclusive. That's why I don't do patron only content. All of my content goes to everybody. So that's, I understand that, but at the same time, I do need to give something to the people that are supporting the program. So that's what we're doing. It's the Discord. If you are a sub-squisher, check your post feed, because I posted the invite link in there. And if you're a patron, same thing. I emailed it to you and I posted it in Patreon, the invite link. So like I said, if there's anybody out there that's financial hardship, just message me. I'll give you the link, whatever. It's not meant to be, like all hardcore or anything. It's just a way to keep it controlled. So there you go. That's it. A lot of people joined today and we've been having fun already. So yeah.
Yeah. Someone in the chat was asking me who my favorite dragon was. My favorite is Caraxes, but for my other favorites, they're ones we haven't seen yet. So if you want, you can always hit me up on Twitter at the Gray Waste. If you don't mind spoilers, like I'd be happy to chat with. I'm always happy to talk with people and talk about those types of things. But this is a spoiler-free stream, so I don't want to answer that one for people who don't know. So but if you really want to know, I can tell you. Later I can tell you that on Twitter and stuff.
And also we do have a book spoilers section of the Discord. So for those of you who do want to talk about the Fire and Blood stuff that's coming, there is a place for that too. And it's got this really cool feature where you can make threads. So I don't know if you've been a Discord, it's pretty much like the most popular private chat message bulletin board type substance. But it's got a lot of cool features. We can do audio discussions on there. And it's got this thing, it's not just all a long series of comments. You can start a thread, and then all the replies are right under it, just like a social media post. The Patreon interface is clunky. That's the thing. Patreon tried to do this. They have a bulletin board thing so that patrons can post topics and people can comment, but most people don't use it, even on other people's patrons. I've noticed that. So Discord is way easier to use, and a lot of people have it already. So if you're a patron, please give Discord a try so that I can bring you this extra content, because I will be starting discussion topics pretty regularly there. So that's it for announcement time. Let's get back to the super chats. Let's see here. Only Harmony in Discord. Yes, be nice. We've got mods, of course. You know that. Did Alicent forget the whole Song of Ice and Fire part of what Viserys said? No, she never understood that part. I mistakenly said that Viserys had told her about the prophecy. He didn't. He told her about his dream, about what he thought was Emma's son at that campfire. He didn't mention the knife and the prophecy. So when he mentioned it on his deathbed, she wouldn't have known what that part, against the cold, in the north, ice and fire, she wouldn't have caught that. She just caught Prince Aegon to unite the realm, pretty much. So, would you agree with that, Tim?
Yeah, it's very much a hearing what you want to hear moment, because when he's, and also even when he did tell her about the dream he had about a baby, where a child born wearing a crown, he was also really, really, really drunk when he said that. So that's another thing that makes this whole thing that Alicent's saying, like the change on his deathbed, even more flimsy, is that even the little bit that you do know of these dreams were something he said when he had already been wasted. So it's like the whole foundation of putting Aegon on the throne, it has so many cracks in it.
Yeah, and that was the thing that made it okay for me. Excuse me, as I recover from my... you guys know I praise Garth here. We gotta keep his name hallowed in these halls. If you don't know what Garth the Green is, then look it up. It's on my YouTube page. Search for Garth. I really liked... what were we talking about, Tim? Talking about memory?
Oh, we were talking about Viserys' dream, and did Alicent know about the prophecy?
So the thing that made it palpable for me, because again, it's all about the agency. I don't need Rhaenyra or Alicent to be evil or dastardly or what. When I say whitewashing, that's not how I'm thinking about it. It's really all about agency. They need to be characters that are taking power. So we were concerned that Alicent wouldn't have agency when it came time to staging the actual coup, because now she thinks she's honoring Viserys' last wish. Well, I don't feel that way after watching the episode. It doesn't seem like you do either. She had a lot of agency. She had her own way that she was playing it. She came to terms with the fact that they were going to commit violence, but she tried to minimize it. That's consistent with her personality of thinking that I can fix him, or at least I can steer him, whether him is Otto or her son Aegon or Kristen Cole or any of these people. I don't know what she thinks she's doing with Larys. That's just quid pro quo, it seems like. But that's probably in there. One of the reasons why they did probably include that is to show that Alicent, again, when she accuses Rhaenyra of sexual crimes or whatever, it's like, well, I mean, obviously the foot fetish thing is not the same as having bastards, but she's willing to do secret things that the Seven would frown on, let us say, to advance her purposes. So it's an important note to hit there. Alicent is rife with self-conflict, and that is why she has been such an interesting character, because that's how people are. Spoiler alert. Quid pro quo.
I was just about to say too. You people
said
are
that.
Terrible.
Who said that? Mackenzie.
Mackenzie.
You are knighted. That's great. You guys are coming. You're bringing the thunder today. Thank you, chat. All right, so Ellis97. I thought it was weird that Kristen crowned Aegon. That's from Fire and Blood, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why Kristen Cole gets that nickname, the Kingmaker, later. I guess it's not a big spoiler. It's just his nickname, the Kingmaker, is solely because of this moment, because he places the crown on Aegon's head.
Yeah, and also because of the fact that he is the Kingsguard muscle behind what they're doing in that council meeting.
Yeah, and he is now Lord Commander.
Right. So he's if he were not going along with Otto and Alicent, they would not have a coup. because the Kingsguard is such an important symbol of authority. Everyone knows that. If all of the Kingsguard were opposing the Hightowers, that nobody would buy it. So, yeah, you see the Cersei and Joffrey dismissed one Kingsguard and replaced him, and that turned a lot of people against them. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Yeah, because it is the Kingsguard are supposed to serve for life. We see that in the beginning when I believe it's Sir Ryan Redwine passes away peacefully in his sleep, which is what gives Kristen Cole the opportunity to even join. And so, yeah, like that's why I think when Sir Harold Westerling takes off his cloak and says, like, I take orders from the king, call me when you have one, it very much invokes like a feeling of Sir Barristan in his moment after being dismissed.
Yeah, and so now we see why they've kept Harold around, is to show a little more conflict in this small council meeting, which I liked. I liked his presence in the scene. So in the books, he's dead 20 years ago. So total change. On the show, he's just ageless and hasn't lost. He's had that same receding hairline for 20 years. But so maybe there's sorcery. Maybe he's warged. Maybe he's okay. I'll stop. Johnny Small says, serious respect to Eric for choosing what he thought was right instead of just blindly following oaths and orders. Definitely a theme we have seen before with the Kingsguard. Yeah, for sure. I almost gave him a Hero of the Week too, but there's a lot. There was, Mysaria and Beesbury got to take the cake on that. I did say Rhaenys and Mellies. I think I have to retract that. There was too much civilian death for them to be a hero. In narrative role, it was heroic, but it was protagonist-like. Because we saw this coup as being a pretty bad thing. They were giving us all the signs that this was a corrupt seizure of power. And so it was heroic in that she disrupted it. But of course, no safe way to ride a dragon, like we said. Brona. Oh, actually, let me give... do you want to comment hero and villain of the week?
My hero went to Sir Eric Cargyle for exactly that same reason, for recognizing Aegon as like, oh, this guy's not going to be a good king, and knowing like, okay, oaths are. I know I took an oath, but my oath is this duty, and this is a guy not worthy of being even sworn that oath, and it just goes to show like, no, oaths are bullshit, and it is very invoking of like. Same thing that they bring up with a lot of these lords who swore to Rhaenyra are still going to remember those oaths. And I wish we knew the name of that, because we have the Lady of House Fell, but I don't. They never gave a name of the older gentleman who also refused to kneel. The one who said like, "Well, I have to go discuss this with my house."
Well, I looked for a sign of a sigil. I didn't see it, but I bet it's there if you go back and look for it. So we'll take a look. But yeah, like to know who that is. Heroes all.
Yeah. I figure for them to be right there as it's happening, they must be lords of like crownland houses or places nearby. Like it can't be a Starks. Like that's too far away to be there this quickly, unless by happenstance they just happen to be in King's Landing on that day.
And who was especially villainous this week? I mean, this really was a good Otto. We definitely got to give him his flowers. That moment of smelling the coup. He's he's given his announcement in the dragon pit, and he's just proud and happy as can be. I was almost happy for him. It's everything he's wanted,
Yeah. I know it's always been a thing, like, we can't always say Otto is villain of the week, but this episode in particular is like, no, we saw the claws come out of Otto, like, and not only just Otto, but just the whole small council, even the new, I'm always blanking on his name because he hasn't had a lot of lines, but the new Master of Laws, Ironrod, I think is his nickname. When Allison even says, like, one more word out of you and I will send you to the wall. It's like, yeah, they've all been in on this. This is something that they've been planning for a while now, not just to put Aegon on the throne, but to also follow that up with the murder of Rhaenyra and Daemon and their children to fully cement it.
Yeah, like I said, I have a feeling this will be much discussed. This idea that Otto's been planning the coup without Alicent's knowledge. But like I said, it made sense to me. It fit the character. Alicent's had these blinders on the whole time. And we saw her kind of take them off this week and try to grab hold of the coup and steer it in her own direction. And that just fits the personality really well for me. So I don't think she's any less villainous than she was in the books at this point. But I think she's way more interesting, way more relatable and understandable, and more complex. So, yeah, there's so much debate about the hero and villainy of the week. You know, you could say Rhaenys is the villain. She killed the most innocent people this week. That's legit. I understand that. Yeah. So yeah, it's it's great writing when you can see so many perspectives on all the characters. I was really impressed with this episode. I thought it was a great episode overall. What would you say, Tim? I'd probably give this one like 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting good things considering the theme that we got from the first season of Game of Thrones. Like we knew going in that episode 8, since episode 8 was the one where King Robert died. Like I think like a lot of us kind of expected the same for Viserys in episode 8, and then episode 9 being the one where Ned died. I think a lot of people were expecting a huge moment for episode 9 here, and shit, yeah, we got it. We got a lot of big moments in this one, and I think that's like it's something we should expect from a penultimate episode for the season, and I loved it. Yeah, 9. I don't want to give it a perfect 10 because we always have room to improve, but definitely like a 9.5 out of 10.
I thought that so I think that next week we'll have an even bigger. Oh my God! In fact, it might have 2 that are more unbelievable than what we saw this week. However, for what they did this week, I think they did a great job. Like, if I was in Ryan Condal's shoes, and I have put myself in his shoes several times, pretty much this whole time, and it was my job to adapt the Green Coup, the episode where they seize power, I don't think I could have done this well. I mean, it had interesting twists and turns. Like, we knew they were going to search for Aegon and that he wasn't going to be found in his chambers, but that turned into a whole thing that wrapped in Mysaria and gave us the people's perspective. Mysaria with that great line to Otto about you only have the power that the people allow. That was huge foreshadowing, especially with this whole thing taking place in the Dragon Pit and all the stuff that we know is coming with Mysaria and Whisperers and Blood and Cheese and all this stuff. Like, that line that she said to Otto had a lot of teeth in it. And you know it's going to come back to bite Otto in the ass as well as lots of other people. So they turned that whole looking for Aegon thing into a really interesting. They gave us all that dialogue between Eric and Arik, which in the books we don't know anything about them other than they're twins who are on the Kingsguard, and we know something important that they did later in the story. But now that important event that involves both of them later in the story is set up because we understand their different takes on this. So as far as adapting the material and doing the Green Coup episode, like, I could even say 10 out of 10. It was really well done. I thought about it once I was about 10 minutes into the episode, I was like, okay, these changes are really working for me. What did you think, Tim? Do you agree with that, or you have different takes on that?
No, I agree, because since we're adapting from Fire and Blood, and which reads like a history book, and a lot of our characters are bare bones, we need to it's a necessity that we get some characterization from from our main characters and also our side characters, because when you're telling a story, like, main character, you always have your main characters, but a lot of times it's going to be side characters that make your story. So seeing this dialogue between the Cargyle twins, seeing their difference of opinion, and seeing exactly what's going to cause one to be on one side and the other to be on the other side, And it's like, yeah, they're both Kingsguard, they're both brothers, but they're definitely not cut from the same cloth. They both have different ideals of what a Kingsguard should be and what that oath means to them.
And it's doing two jobs too, because they're also telling us about Aegon, and they're giving us this very much needed perspective of what does everyone think of Aegon? What are the peoples that are close enough to see his flaws think about the idea of putting him on the throne and then defending his right to sit it for 30 years? That's what the Kingsguard are signed up to do. So,
yeah.
And we've had so many moments when we've talked about the morality of the Kingsguard, whether it's Jaime and Barristan and all them, or Brienne and Sandor's discussion about knights and what it means. I mean, this has been such a big discussion topic throughout the major books of A Song of Ice and Fire. So I'm really glad that they've visited this dilemma for Eric and Arik, and also used that to inform us about just how everyone sees Aegon and what this means for him to take the throne. So terrific writing. And that's and the last 10 minutes I've just been talking about what they did with searching for Aegon out in the city, let alone what they did with the council meeting. We talked about that a little bit. The murder of Beesbury was interestingly done. The fact that Otto and Alicent aren't on quite the same page is interesting. This extra conflict between Criston and Westerling. We've sensed that tension building up. That was great, where he told Criston to lay down his sword. Alicent took Westerling's back, but then Westerling was like, I'm out of here if you're telling me to do some fuck shit, So
yeah, again, like with spanning from Eric and Arik, but also, like you said, like Harold Westerling and Criston Cole, like I had brought up in that Squisher chat before you pulled me on, like Larys's methods of spy mastering versus Mysaria's, and then also Aemond and his whole role in the search for Aegon, as we're setting up foils for one another. And I feel like, because we actually haven't really discussed Aemond much.
Yeah, I was about to say, go ahead.
Yeah, because like it's great seeing that characterization from Aemond, to know that, like, yeah, there definitely is that resentment. Like, he feels like it should be me. Like, that line he dropped of you run for, or no, it was actually Criston Cole who says, like, you run from things that most men would die for. But then Aemond, even up to that, is like, yeah, like, it's you who's going to be on, and I have to be the dutiful one who bring you there, and I'm the one who has to carry you on your back. And it's like, but he says, like, if they don't find him, if they come searching for me, I want to be found. And I think we kind of get a sense that Aemond, in the back of his mind, probably didn't want to find Aegon. He was probably hoping he was right, and that Aegon did, like, hop on a ship and flee.
What would have happened if Aemond had found Aegon alone in an alley, and Aegon was already like barely awake and conscious and drunk and shit? Like, they found him underneath of that table in the sept. Like, Aemond might have just been like,
yeah, like it's been like
right,
especially too because we know Aegon's a drinker, so if he just like pushed him and then just said he fell down some stairs. He was drunk and he fell down some stairs. People would believe it, because they'd be like, oh yeah, that's Aegon. He's probably fallen down a couple of stairs.
And certainly if Aemond had a way to take Aegon's, like, if Aemond had a way to ship him to a Shy or ET, he probably would have gone for that for sure. But that situation didn't present itself. But they did a good job of opening this rift, to your point, Tim, through the action of that scene. So now we know a little, because we were wondering about that. How does Aemond feel? He's obviously so much more serious about this whole thing than Aegon is. And then we heard Aemond sort of sell himself. I study the histories and I ride the biggest dragon. It's like, it's a pretty good case that he lays out, to be honest. So, yeah. He had to say that. Like, if anybody of us were in his position, you would say that at some point to somebody. You'd be like, look at my ass, dude. I have Vagar. I got Nana.
I also think that that sex worker was a little bit interested too. Like, that whole "my how you've grown" type thing.
Oh yeah,
it's like,
yeah. And Aemond gave a little which to me was like, maybe I should come back and just burn this building down. Like I didn't read that as like maybe I should come back and dally with you. It was like
No. I didn't get that from him, but I got it from
he's
her.
got a. I think when that temper cracks, we're gonna see some ultra violence in the Clockwork Orange sense, if you will. But of course, he rides Nana, so it can just say Jakari's, and that's that. Boy, you felt like Rainey's was about to say it too. She's like, yeah. Did I? Yeah. Too easy.
I mean, there's what I could say, but it's about Eamon and older women. But
all right, so let me climb back on the. Let me save you and climb back on the next super chats here. Brona says Rainey's was great, but the fact she didn't just remove the greens was annoying. Also, screw Kristen, more murders in broad daylight and nothing. Who did he? Oh, Beesbury, right? Well, not nothing. Westerling tried to call him on it, but then Allison basically protected him again. And it's just, that's the same thing we should assume that happened last time. It's like that's why he didn't face consequences for murdering help me out, Tim. Kristen Cole murdered at the wedding. Joffrey Lonmouth. Thank you.
Lonmouth.
Yeah. Allison would be the one who protected it from those consequences. Now, we've talked about the Rainey's thing enough, so I'm just going to, we've already visited that one. Ron Robinson, did you notice the Kingsguard guy knew the secret passages in the keep? No, I did not. It's hard for me to know which passages are supposed to be the hidden in the walls ones, because when Rhaenyra went sneaking behind the walls, it didn't look that secret. Like she was still in daylight when she was overhearing the Strongs talking. So I'm not, unless we see a wall like turn and spin like that, I'm not really sure which ones are supposed to be the hidden ones. But the Kingsguard might know, because it's supposedly the blood of the dragon who knows the secrets, and they take their Kingsguard everywhere. So did you catch that, Tim?
No, but it is a question I've always wondered, is who else knows, like, because we know from the main stories Varys somehow knows his way around, and that leads to a lot of the Varys secret Targaryen theories. But it is a wonder, like, do the Kingsguard know the secret passages? Like, are Targaryen kings or maybe princes and princesses who do know, like, giving them like a sort of grand tour of that to let them know, like, oh yeah, if shit goes down, we have these secret passages. I want you to know the way through so that you can get me out of here. It is a good question of, like, how many people are in on it. Mute.
Like I said, or like you just said, it's easy to come up with a reason why some members of the Kingsguard at least would know. So I'll go back and check to see. Yeah. Thoughts on Sir Harold? Unpoos says, well, we just kind of gave him. And of course, I'm reading questions that came in a few minutes ago. So Anthony Bolden, Rainey's should have ended it right there. Yeah, a lot of people feel that way. Malika says, why didn't Rainey's and Melly's just burn the high towers right there? Okay. A lot of people feel that way. Sarah Fentine says, I'm very upset Viserys didn't get a proper Targaryen funeral. Did it bother anyone else? Well, he still could, but obviously it's disrespectful to leave his corpse in there for however long it's been. In the books, it was several days. I don't know that they really played that up, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Sorry about that. My battery's about to die, so I had to go plug the power cord in.
Oh, good man. Yeah, that'd be good. Reinhardt 68 thus plays Otto magnificently to see how calmly he condemned an entire family to death. That's the worst kind of monster. Yeah, with the whole rationalization too, like, hey, sacrifices of a few for the many, But of course, there's a real debate to be had about idealism and pragmatism and things like that. That's why we have democracy or progress I don't even want to get into all that, but that's why feudal monarchies aren't looked at as the most just form of government, because they are barbaric. the logic of the system is barbaric. And so if you operate within the system, you end up internalizing a certain amount of barbarism. Some people would say the same about more modern systems of government and economic governance. But
we've I think people might be familiar with that line, like the more things change, the more they stay the same. So even though we like to think ourselves more modern with systems of democracy or parliament or whatever it is that you have, but in a lot of ways it is like, have we really changed that much from like a feudal society? Sometimes you might say like, maybe not that much. Maybe not.
Well,
I've got changed.
I've got some economic disparity graphs that say no, Tim. I'll tell you that. If somebody wants me to say this 5 times fast, so I will. If Dany was Rhaenys, you think she would Dracarys. If Dany was Rhaenys, you think she would Dracarys. Okay, I'm not going to do that. If Dany was Rhaenys, do you think she would have Dracarys? Well, it depends on if it's book Dany or show Dany before season 8, episode 4, or Dany in the last 3 episodes, because those are all different people. So, hard to say. Book Dany, probably not, because book Dany, the thing is, book Dany doesn't have any family. So this is the thing that we've talked about when it comes to Fagon, or possibly not Fagon, but yeah, it's Fagon, whoever, that guy, good young Griff. Dany's gonna see him as family until she figures out that he's not who he says he is. And that is going to be a very interesting dilemma for her that I'm looking forward to seeing her manage. So don't want to go into all that, but yeah, that's a big thing. Kinslaying is a big deal in A Song of Ice and Fire, not just for the Northmen. So Jack says, were they implying that Aegon is bi? No. When Cole and Eamon visited the brothel, the hostess says that his tastes are not picky. The Street of Silk is where the nice brothels are. So that's what she meant. He doesn't necessarily even go to the nicest brothels. So Patrick Long says, I read that one. Samantha, hero, Rhaenys, villain, Otto. Can't wait to see Rhaenyra's reaction next week. Also happy this is likely to be 4 seasons. Yeah, George said 4 seasons. And we also heard them mention Daeron. So Alicent's third son, Daeron, he's in Old Town, as he was in the books. Valmiki says, opinions on the reason Rhaenys didn't just cook the greens. She couldn't kill Alicent to her face. Great that she's willing to kill hundreds of small folk, but not actually end the war. That's a valid take. I don't want to keep talking about it, but that's a valid take, and it will be debated.
Just after the episode, Ryan Condal gives his reasoning. So if anyone who hasn't watched the after the episode and the preview for next week, I would just suggest go back after the credits and watch those.
And I'm not sure when they even mentioned Darren. It's just a bunch of people said that they did. So did you catch it, Tim?
No, but I do know that George did mention on his Nada blog that Daeron is going to be in the show, that they just didn't have time this season to mention him or to bring him up. And I'm glad to see that we at least got the twins. They went unnamed, like when Alicent shows up to deliver the news to Helena that Viserys has passed. We do see the twins, but they go unnamed. I don't think it's a spoiler to say their names are Jaehaerys and Jaehaera. But again, it's like there's so much that we gotta put in that I understand why certain things had to be cut for time's sake. Although I really do wish they could have just given us a quick, just give us the names of the kids so we at least know who they are.
Yeah, we'll get there. They were cute though. The wigs look the best on the kids almost, I think. Let's see here. Real quick, this super chat that just came through. Otto and Rhaenys were mirrors. Otto would burn them all if it ended the threat. Yeah, Otto definitely would. And that's why I said they were intending us to think about that line from Alicent about being reluctance to murder isn't necessarily a flaw. That's something you're going to have to think about over and over through this whole story. Did the score give you Light of the Seven vibes? I don't ever know the names of the different Ramin movements myself, but the music was really powerful in this episode. I did notice that. But yeah, I'm not. Some people do keep track of all those different themes and stuff. I don't really tend to do that. I just enjoy it. Embarrassed to say that as a musician, but yeah. I don't know the names. Of course, I don't do names of songs. I'm all like, oh, the third track on Frizzle Fry, you know. So we don't know. They died. Maybe it was just trauma. Patrick says. Who are we talking about? The people in the dragon pit? No, the dragon definitely did step on some people. It burst through the floor. Definitely some people died. Let's see. Brona says, do you think the events of next week, the kinslaying, etc., will show us how the Greens feel as well? I can't see Alicent being happy about that. I can't really answer that without getting into spoilers. Yeah. I feel like Rhaenys is being very calculated. She wants war to spite Rhaenyra, hence why she seemingly misinformed her of the Greens' plans. I'm confused by that one. What do you mean misinformed her of the Greens' plans? Do you know what she's talking about?
No.
If you want to follow that one up with an explanation, I just didn't understand that.
Yeah, because I just don't have that take on Rhaenys that she... I mean, I don't have a take on Rhaenys that she wants war. So I would need you to elaborate on that a bit more.
I think she's ultra pragmatic. I don't think that she lets her emotions guide her decision making really at all. Probably more so than any character, she is pragmatic. So I would say calculated, but I don't think that doesn't fit with going to war to spite somebody. That's not calculated. That would be emotional based decision making. No. Swinny the Pooh says, loved Rhaenys pulling a Shawshank on the Greens. That's cool. I like that reference. That's good. There's a meme there. With Red digging his way, and Rhaenys behind him with Mellies in the little tunnel. Or maybe it's Mellies drop. I'm thinking of Great Escape now. I'm getting them all mixed up. Anyways, we'll work on it. Can't keep a good dragon down. Yeah. I loved it when you heard that little cough. I was like, is that a dragon cough? I was like, oh, she's going to burst through the floor, isn't she? And then she did.
Yeah, they did have like a lot of people in the background coughing like during the takes. Like it felt, and I think that was to set up like how awkward it was for a lot of the small folk who just got corralled in here. That like nobody really knows what's going on, but it's all just like it's a smoke and mirror show to have people just see that. Oh yeah, if people can see that Aegon's being crowned, that it gives some sort of legitimacy to it all. But the reality is like most of these people are just like, I don't even know why I'm here. And then a dragon shows up, and then everyone has to be like, I didn't fucking sign up for this. What did you bring me into? Muted again.
Sorry. Christian says Rhaenys is definitely unbreakable. Rhaenyra tried flattering her, so did Alicent, but she can read that BS from a mile away. Yeah, for sure. She always turns the tables on people when they try to get the best of her in conversation. Every time. I am curious to see if maybe this show version of Rhaenys potentially still has an idea that maybe she can come out on the Iron Throne. She said that she gave up that dream before, but you wonder what kind of role she's going to play next week in Rhaenyra's War Council. So this will be very interesting to see, because Rhaenys in the books, she's heroic, but she's a very two-dimensional character. This character has got a lot more going on. So she's I feel like she's one of the characters that's there to keep us guessing a little bit. Tommy Freestyle. Laurie's getting off on Allie's exposed feet. Not sure if we covered this yet. Late to the party. Yeah, we talked about it a bit. I probably need to take some time to think about it on a deeper level. We mostly had jokes with it. Obviously, it's awkward and funny and all this stuff. To see Alicent, of all people, being a foot model for Laurie's. That's kind of the weird part of it. It's not even that Laurie's gets off on feet. It's more like Alicent being the one to do it for him that makes it just really weird and awkward or whatever. I think that's the note of it, because it's Alicent. She's so pure, and the way she's slowly taking her stockings off, it's just like, oh wait, what's going on here? Oh shit. yeah. Anyway.
There's obviously nothing wrong with foot fetishes. There's lots wrong with Laris.
Yes, that's also worth saying. And then I think we mentioned that. Yeah, exactly. Nothing wrong with foot fetishes. Laurie's has a lot of problems, but to me it's Alicent being the one to do this, to be the foot model that is like wickedly entertaining, if you will. Kishore Explorer, is Rhaenyra the last person to know about the prophecy? Does anyone else know? Okay. Yeah, we haven't seen her tell anybody. We don't know if Daemon knows or not. We haven't seen Viserys or Rhaenyra tell Daemon, so we don't know. Rhaenyra has told nobody else that we have seen. So, yeah, we'll probably find out something about that next week, I bet.
Next week, yeah.
Fire and Blood also does not mention how Aegon watched children blood sport. The small folk go unmentioned, just like the small folk under Melly's feet. Yeah, the small folk only come into Fire and Blood in a couple of key parts, as far as the maesters giving them real attention. But yeah, I mean, they're expanding the story as far as Aegon's proclivities. We know that he did hang out in Flea Bottom, so we're supposed to assume he was into all kinds of stuff there, Flea Bottom type stuff, and this turns out to be what that means. So,
yeah, most of our ideas of the small folk in the book Fire and Blood come from Mushroom, because we get our three sources, and I'm on the record saying, like, I don't, like, nobody of the three sources, none of them are telling the whole truth, but I do think Mushroom is the one telling the most truth, and his accounts are going to be the ones where we see more of the small folk idea of things.
It puts the lotion on the foot again.
Oh, jeez.
Gotta love you, chat. Let's see. Gunnar says, no kink. The guy just dreams of having two working feet. That's, I think, maybe the kind of problematic part about it to me, is like having a guy with a club foot have a foot fetish. But I don't know. I haven't thought about this enough to think about these angles. So I will just listen to people's comments if anybody has angles on this stuff. But there's definitely a kink. I mean, he was jerking off, so that's a kink. Let's see. Hyperborea says, in my mind, Rhaenys gave the small folk. And by the way, I don't know if I'm happy or sad that Nettles isn't here to talk about this. I'm kidding. I do love Nettles. I just, Nettles, if you're out there, tell me what you think. Oh. All right. Nettles, our resident firebrand, of course. In my mind, and follow Girl Nettles. The streams on her channel are just hysterically funny. You've got to see them. So if Minty, if you could drop Girl Nettles' link real quick, which it's in the description of most of these videos too. Oh man, some of the stuff that I have heard her say on her channel is very funny and not something I would say on my channel. Both of those things. Hypoborea says, in my mind, Rhaenys gave the small folk the perfect justification for a future event that I can't talk about because it's spoilerific, that takes place in that same location. So those of you that know, yes, we were obviously supposed to be thinking of that future event, but I can't say more. But definitely, Hyperborea, you're right about that. Tracy says, the changes from the book are George approved. That is correct. Yes, George is working. Well, George is working closely with Ryan. He does not have editorial approval. but he has praised this. He's seen the whole season and thinks it's awesome. So in that sense, yes, it has his seal of approval. Tracy says they definitely enrich the story, completely different from Game of Thrones. Like I said, I'll throw Game of Thrones a bone here and there. I liked Danny burning the calls, but mostly when they went off script, it was pretty bad. Time traveling necromancer with just a donation. Allie with a donation. Jon Snow Rules says, do you think this could become an anthology after the dance story is done to explore other parts of the dynasty? Also, Kristen has issues. Yes, and yes, and yes. Yes. In fact, they've already said that is their intention, that if this goes well, they will be moving to other parts of history. What was the burning building near the Red Keep? That was Mysaria's mansion. So they tried to kill her in a fire. Strongly suspect that she is hard to kill and is not dead, but we'll see. Let's see here. I will go ahead and put in last call for questions now that we are caught up with Super Chats, although I will also go over to PayPal's because I got a couple of those. Let's see here. And Ian Thorpe. Lucifer has taken my Super Chat virginity. Appreciate all of your work. I will think of a worthy question on the next one. Okay, I'm glad I read that. That was awesome. Samantha. It was super funny. Team Green had to look for Aegon for 3/4 of the episode. The scene with Lares makes me think his clubfoot is real, or he is very committed to making people think he is disabled. I hadn't thought about that. He's faking the kink in order, because of course there is a theory that he doesn't really have a clubfoot and that is a disguise, so that when he goes around on secret business without the clubfoot, no one will think it's him. So maybe in service to that is this whole... Probably not. In fact, I think it probably means that the clubfoot is real. Yeah, I would agree with that. But we'll see. I personally don't buy that Rhaenys wouldn't have roasted the dais based on what we've seen from her show character. I think this is one of those it looks cool things. It would have made more sense for her to fly. Cleo, you can't bite the microphone cable. Hang on. Come here, step up. I think it would have made sense for her to fly a circuit and just leave to show she had escaped. She knew since Viserys named Rhaenyra the heir, there would probably be a war, so she's knowingly let the usurpers live. I also got super Maegor the Cruel vibes from Aegon toward the end. And you would have gotten Maegor the Cruel vibes from Rhaenys if she had roasted everyone on the dais, and she's not Maegor the Cruel, and that's kind of the point. So you can argue about it if you want, but it's believable that she would make that choice, to me. That's all I can say about it. Let's see here. Tim, do you have thoughts on that? We've kind of gone over that a lot, but...
Yeah, like, I keep saying, like, to watch the after the episode, because even Ryan Condal has said, like, he knows people are going to take issue with that scene, and he explains it as best he can. And I see where he's coming from when he gives his reasoning about it being like Rhaenys recognizes Alicent, shows mercy in the way that Alicent had showed mercy to her by not going through with what Otto would have done. And it is an idea of a mother-to-mother thing of, especially with Rhaenys having just lost her children, or at least in the case of Laenor, believed to have lost her children, to not be the one to do that to another mother in that very moment. I mean, we can all disagree, like, yeah, because... I mean, yes, at the end of the day, if Rhaenys had just burned them right then and there, that would have taken care of the whole problem. But it does, but at the same time, it'd be like, okay, well, if you just murdered them right then and there it also would set up a whole other thing, because, like, if with the Septons there, for Rhaenys to burn them right then and there, it would also be like when Joffrey had Ned beheaded on the Sept of Baelor. It sets a bad precedent. It sets a whole bunch of bad precedents for her to do that.
Yeah, I think it was a well-crafted situation as far as being the kind of thing that people can now debate, and you can see a point on both sides of it. But yeah, I mean, she had to make the decision right then, It's not something that she had probably thought about beforehand, and then suddenly she's faced with the choice to murder a bunch of her cousins and shit.
Yeah.
And she
It would
chose,
also,
not to.
I think it would also, Rhaenys would realize it would also look bad for Rhaenyra, because then people could point at Rhaenyra and be like, oh, the Butcher Queen, she got there because, because of the murder of her entire family. People would probably think that Rhaenys did it on orders from Rhaenyra, if Rhaenyra were to take the throne right after.
Yeah, and she's weakened them so much just by screwing up their coronation. Like I said, the optics of it are like as if the worst omen ever. So yeah, we'll see. Real quick, can Aemond love anyone, do you think?
He loves Helena. He loves his mom.
He loves Helena and he loves his mom, says Minty. Yeah, I think that's true. I think that people who are a little bit broken or messed up, a lot of times they love people as much as they're capable, or in the way that they are capable. That's actually true of everybody. Everybody's a little bit broken. And to the extent, like, the more honest you are with yourself, the more at peace with yourself, the more you know yourself, the better you're able to love in a relationship. So the inverse is true. So yeah, Aemond can love in his way. Alicent can love in her way. Everybody loves in their own way, but it's compromised. Like, we saw Alicent call her dad on using her, and he's like, well, I made you queen. And she's like, yeah, and now the bill is due. That was a great touch too. I love that. What did you think of that moment there, Tim?
With Alicent and her dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, her reclaiming the agency, like seeing Otto for what he is, and even calling him out on it, like, I was just a piece on the board for you. And then Otto's basically saying, like, yeah, well, you might have been a piece, but I made you queen of the Seven Kingdoms. Like, he is expecting her to be happy about that, because and when we think, like, yeah, absolute power, you're the queen, you're like, in some ways the second most powerful person in the realm after the king, because the queen also, even Otto's probably recognizing that even as his station as hand, the queen still outranks him. So he's like, look, like, I made you queen, you're technically higher than I am, like, what are you pissed off about? And that's the thing that Otto doesn't get, since he doesn't have that power that he actually wants to grab. It's like, no, man, this power that you want is not what you think it is. Like, it is a burden.
And I love how
It's like,
she says, I don't know if I would like something different, because I only wanted what you sort of raised me to want. And later she mentions Viserys in a similar context. She says, Rhaenys, you should have been the queen, and Viserys just would have been a country lord reading his histories, and you could read the subtext and would have been much happier as a person. So it's kind of like Alicent is saying, I don't even know what I would have rather have done, because that choice was taken from me.
Yeah.
And that's real. I really liked that Alicent called her dad on that, because that is the main part of her character that I first zeroed in on as being sympathetic when I was reading Fire and Blood before the season. And I was like, what's the deeper layer to Alicent? The coup plotter, And it was like, oh, well, she's used as a tool by her dad from the age of 14. And they changed some things, but that fact is still there in the show version. And I was really glad to see her call her dad on it and sort of grapple with that. Just like Viserys called Otto on putting his daughter in front of him when he was weak. So.
Yeah. It's like, it's true to life too, because some people have different ideas of what they would do with power or money or something like that. Like, I've thought, like, what if I was in a position of power, or just something as simple as, like, hey, what if I bought a winning lottery ticket one day? Like, would my life change? Some people would take it to the full max. They'd buy a mansion and they'd go for all it's worth. Or if they were in a position of power, like, they would try and do like these huge momentous things. And then other people would be like, I probably wouldn't change much. I'd probably just pay off some debt, try to do as many good things as I could with the moments that I have, but might just still keep living this simple life, but just be comfortable in it. And I think that's what most people want that Alicent never got, is they want comfort. Alicent's in this high seat of power, but there is no comfort that comes with it.
Yeah, it's as comfortable as the Iron Throne itself. Yeah, those are great points, Tim. Thanks for joining me, buddy. You really made this stream a lot better than it would have been. I appreciate your observations tonight. You're sharp. It's like you drank a bunch of caffeine and got ready for this or something.
I'm just drinking green tea.
Just drinking
Always
green tea.
with the tea.
Tim's healthy man. There you go. You can't be a dynamo like Tim without being healthy. There you go. I got it in. Got it in for you. All right. Yeah, never. The answer is never. You're never living it down. Tim. The crowd is chanting. Nah, good stuff though. Great stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Like I always appreciate coming on. I love doing these streams. I'm very happy that you thought of me, that you saw me in the chat and said, Tim would be great to have on, and then gave me that time to be like, honey, like to run upstairs and tell my fiance, like, honey, is it okay if I go stream? You don't need me for anything, right?
Oh, see, look how good husband too, family man. That's nice. That's
called being a dynamo.
Like
that's called being a dynamo. Minty says.
Yeah, people who aren't familiar with me, you might have seen the cat running around. That's Damon. But I also we have a puppy, and I can't bring him on the streams. I love Brody, but Brody is chaos, and I just can't have him on the streams.
Yeah, I've got one chaos bird goose that can't come out here, and then one that is silent. She's chaotic in her own way, but she's not loud, so
yeah,
she gets to stay.
Damon hops up on screen when he pleases.
Eamon and Damon. Right.
Oh, the Eamon Damon thing. That's like,
you got to sit your dog. You got to sit your dog down and be like, "Look, when I named you, Maester Eamon was cool, but now it's Eamon. So we're adding a D to your name, buddy. But it's basically the same thing."
I've been trying to because I have friends that are watching it that have never read the books, and a lot of them are complaining it's so hard to keep track of the characters. And I've been doing that thing like, look, I'm going to lay it down for you. There's that meme, and I showed them that meme that's going around, like there's Viserys, Aegon, Jacaerys, Jaehaera, Baela, Rhaena, Rhaenyra, Eric, and like keep up. Like this is easy. But no, I totally get why people are having such a hard time grasping some of these names.
So let's see, Brona. Do you think? Oh, it's another blood and cheese question. I can't answer that, Brona. But we can discuss that in the spoiler section of the Discord if you wish, and if you are there. Jen, let's see. I got that one. Ewan says, could Alicent have ever done the same to Lares? Done the same.
Does Alicent have a foot fetish now?
Oh. I don't think so. Or maybe she's talking about how, remember, because I was saying Alicent confronted Otto and sort of put him in his place. So maybe that's the question. Could she ever do that with Lares? Because Lares kind of has run of the castle. He just shows up in a room and surprises her. Like, she's never really put him in his place yet. And he has a lot of blackmail on her. So that is something to watch. She sort of reined him in simply by acknowledging him and saying, no, I'll give me your card. I'll call you. Not this time, but I will. That seemed to settle him down, but she hasn't had to put him in check yet. Jackie says, in one scene, Aegon's running away from the throne. In the next, he's in front of the crowd and is emboldened. Feel like he's not going to be easily controlled. Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. That is true. Brian Holiday, what was your takeaway from the conversation between Alicent and Rhaenys? Also, why do you think Rhaenys stays loyal to Rhaenyra? Well, we don't know how Rhaenys is honestly going, what she's going to do when she arrives on Dragonstone next week. We're going to have to see. She may want to bargain with Rhaenyra. She took the marriage pact because Viserys came down to the throne room and changed the calculus. And so then it was politically advantageous to marry Baela and Rhaena to Jace and Luke. And she didn't do it before that because it wasn't. So that's why I say she's very pragmatic. But the conversation between Alicent and Rhaenys, we talked about it a little bit. I thought it was great, and it was very insightful as to their personal philosophies. Ron Robinson, power itself corrupts everyone who gets it. I tend to think that it reveals more than corrupts. I'm on that train. Come here, girl. Come here. But the smallest sort of personality flaw, when you have a lot of power, it can be fed. Like the beast gets fed, the beast within you. If you got two wolves within you, the bad wolf gets a lot to eat, potentially. He was always there, but he's emboldened, right?
And now we're putting a guy on the throne who has a whole slew of personality flaws.
That aren't hidden, that we already know about, right? Mm-hmm. Why didn't Aegon have Sunfire next to him at his coronation? Would have been a perfect, non-overtly threatening display of Targ power. That's a good thought. Maybe he doesn't have good enough control of Sunfire, but it does seem like that would have been a good idea. So I'm not really sure why. I'm not really sure. If anybody's got a good answer, feel free to pipe in. Tim, do you have an idea?
I think it goes back to what I said yesterday, talking about it's not a great story answer, but it is an answer from show running. In the idea of why we've seen so few dragons is sometimes it could just be something as simple as budgetary constraints, only using the dragons when they're absolutely necessary, and then hoping that HBO will supply a bigger budget for season 2 when it comes time for more dragons and dragon battles and things like that. Like, I really think this first season, even though like HBO's throwing a lot of money at it, we have been burned by season 8 of Game of Thrones, and I do think like this show needed to show that it could stand on its own two legs and not rely so much on Dragon, and be able to go fully on its own story to show that it can hold up, and that it's not just going to be an overblown, bloated CGI dragon fight. Like, we want to be better than Marvel here.
Yeah, and the dragon fights are coming. There will be plenty next season. So yeah. Yeah, that it's potential that they might have been worried about scaring people. Or Sunfire, just like I said, the ability to control Sunfire, make sure he doesn't eat anyone. That may have been a concern. But it was powerful with Aegon's throne and Blackfire. And you can see how much the knife meant to Aegon too. Like, you almost felt for him when he was like, my father didn't make me king because he didn't like me. Like that, we've been picking up on that inadequacy. But then when Alicent gave him Viserys' knife, you could tell that was a moment where it began to change for him. It meant a lot to him. And he was like, don't kid around. And she gave him the knife, and then he's just like, he was looking at it really hard. And because Viserys, that thing is, I thought of Viserys. The knife is like, he's always got that damn thing. And whatever emotion we have for this character of Viserys, which is a fair amount after last week, you see that knife, and it was emotional. It almost felt like, oh, I remember that guy who died, my uncle or something. So yeah. It means a lot to him too. Go ahead.
Oh, because we saw in the last episode, Jace is trying to learn Valyrian. And one thing I thought of is, since we know that Aegon kind of blows off studies, it makes me wonder if Aegon knows Valyrian, if he is fluent in it, if he can, and if he were to hold that dagger to the flame and be able to show the prophecy when it's heated up, if he'd even be able to read it. Now, Eamon, for his part, I'm sure Eamon probably knows how to speak Valyrian and read Valyrian and all that. I'm just not sure if Aegon actually can. I don't know if he's even bothered to learn that part of his own ancestry.
Yeah, and Uniquely Stellar also makes a good point that there was a second note with the knife. When he was looking at it down low, there was that emotional beat, but then as he holds it up and stares at the blade, turned a little menacing, didn't it? Like he was focusing on the edge. And it was right when Alicent was like, we can't rule through cruelty. And he's like, this knife is sharp. That's kind of...
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of the vibe I got there. Hi, girl. Here. I can only put Cleo on my shoulder if I put my hood up. Otherwise, she will try to nest in my hood, and it's very awkward.
When Aegon is staring at the blade like that, I think in that moment we're really supposed to think of Joffrey, how Cersei was under the impression that Joffrey was gonna let Ned take the black, but then Joffrey goes a whole different way. I can foresee Aegon having a similar moment where he goes against the plans of his mother and his grandfather and goes rogue and just does something like completely out of the blue that nobody knew, and then that's when they realize like we have no control over this kid anymore.
Yeah, the Joffrey vibes are palpable. They're wafting off of Aegon, and he's older too and more worldly even than Joffrey. So, yep, and that was definitely a potent scene. Visual symbolism going on there. When Otto was shouting, "Open the door," it was to give Meleys a way to get out. I didn't understand that scene. Yes, that was exactly right. If you shut Meleys in, everyone's going to die. So, yeah, that was the idea. Does Aegon ever get together, or does he get worse as expected? Well,
Spoilers.
yeah, spoilers. But, you know, in the way of characters being complex, it's like it's not all one note. He doesn't just turn into purely, you know. I mean, there's complexity there. I'll say that. So it doesn't turn into Mother Teresa, but there's some complexity there. Hi, girl. Yeah, is it bedtime? Is it bedtime, girl?
Aw.
It's bedtime, isn't it? Are you tired? Yeah. No, I'm not putting you there. Go back here. All right, cool. Well,
Do you want to just go back and make sure that those ones that are still highlighted?
Oh, okay. Is there an?
Did them or not?
I thought I got them all, but no. Let me see. Emily says, "Is
Or
there
were
any?"
there-
What's that?
I was going to ask, were there PayPals yet?
I did a couple PayPals. I'll check again, but there's more super chats that I missed apparently. Emily says, "Is there any significance to those stones the council members have on the table?" Yes, there's a different one for each member of the small council, and the one the king has is a septarian, which is also known as a dragon stone, because you can see it kind of looks a little bit like an egg that's cracked open or something like that. So that's what this is. What's that one you got there?
Oh, it's a petrified egg. I got it at the mineral. My fiance loves going to like mineral festivals, so I got this, and I just refer to it as my dragon egg. It's pretty. It's the only reason I got it. I also got this. It's a piece of shungite, and if you can see, like it's like an inky black meteor piece, and it actually does like leave like oily black stone.
That's got some serious love. As soon as you picked it up, I felt the evil coming through the screen there. The stones are just there in case people get out of line, so Kristen can kill them, says Talk. And yeah, welcome those of you who have joined Squishers. I also saw like 5 or 6 people jumped on Patreon to get in the Discord, so thank you guys. I will welcome you all and make sure you have the link and all that. Sadet with a thank you. Thank you. You're welcome. Whichever way that was supposed to go. Did you guys catch that Aegon was wearing black for his coronation? I have expected him to announce Rhaenyra as the queen and him stepping down then. Well, I mean, he's got to be a Targaryen to be king, so he can't wear green forever. Let's see. And going back up, just to make sure I've got them all. Time-traveling necromancer. I got...
For my peoples, they can't remember what their question was.
Yeah, I saw them said, check my last @ but I couldn't find that. Downtown Clowny Brown. I think the sex worker was meant to have been Aemond's first. The one Aegon took him to meet when he was young. Yeah, no, that I do think that was it. I just think that Eamon might have been thinking about murdering her and burning down her whole building potentially. But that's just the vibe he gives off. So we'll have to see. Dominique.
Murdery kind of guy.
He does. He seems, I mean, I was watching, when I rewatched the last episode, I was watching to see if he ever blinked. I was like, did they film it so that his one eye just like never blinks or something? And it does in fact blink, but it seems like it doesn't. It's that guy, the actor is a little too old for the role, but there's a reason why they cast him in that role anyway, and I'm okay with it myself. So he's just too good. Dominic Odom says, Aegon got some sympathetic moments. I laughed my ass off with Lares and Alicent. He was staring like he wanted to beg to give her a foot rub. Yeah, you have a feeling it's going to escalate to foot baths and things like that. So, yeah. Let's see here. Justin, is Sir Harold Westerling going to head over to Dragonstone? It seems that way. We've seen him on Dragonstone in like the big season preview trailer, like before the season, and we haven't seen that moment yet. So probably, yeah. I think that's a safe assumption. Let's see. No, read that. Yep, no, we're good. I've read all these.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Thank you for all the questions that you guys sent in. And, of course, I will be splitting those proceeds with Mr. Tim here. That's usually what we do on these Sunday streams, just so you know. So, Tim, say thank you.
Oh, thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me on. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. And, yeah, it's
and, of course, everyone should think about themselves as buying the pet food for Eamon and Damon, right?
Yeah, Damon, Brody, Chloe. Those are my three kids that I got.
There you go. Cool. So this has been about 2 hours. I'll go ahead and call it here. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Give the stream a like if you haven't already. And please, if you would, on the way after the stream is over, hit the refresh button and then leave a comment. That will help YouTube think it's awesome and show it to more people. And I'll see you on Wednesday with a video like usual. And thanks again to Grey Waste Tim, whose YouTube channel is called Grey Waste Tim. And tell people what they can find on your channel.
Yes, if you go to my YouTube channel, Grey Waste Tim, I do a lot of Lovecraft influences on A Song of Ice and Fire, so you'll find things like the Stream Quest of Unknown Kadath. And for those who don't mind spoilers, I've done some deep dives into Song of Ice and Fire and things that will happen later in Fire and Blood. You can also find me on Twitter at the Grey Waste, or you can just find me as just search Grey Waste Tim. I'm right there.
Nice. So apparently, so everyone go subscribe to Grey Waste Tim. And obviously, if any of the words that he just said are coming across your radar as, Robert E. Howard, stuff like that, then you're probably already subscribing. But definitely you'll find some good discussions there over on the Grey Waste Tim channel. And apparently you can gift memberships. Roast Beef has gifted a membership to Doc Hayes. That's pretty cool. I'll have to see what that's about and talk about that next time. All right. Well, thanks a lot, guys. I will see you all on the Discord and on Wednesday. So cheers. And yeah, that was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. So I'll have lots to talk about. The challenge will probably be limiting the script to 20 minutes or less, but we'll see. So cheers.
It's good. Good night, everybody.